Heather asks, question on nutrition. If lightly cooking the proteins instead of raw feeding, what's the best way to ensure the dog is getting the appropriate calcium phosphate ratio from where? Bone meal seems to be one of those hot topics. I think so. I mean, if you're, so the issue, first off, we're talking about lightly cooking and then instead of raw feeding. Lightly cooking to me is a must for many animals. Not every animal can eat raw food. Many young animals can, and it's totally fine. You know, I have a 17-year-old dog. She's on the picture that I'm kind of holding her. She's 17 now, and she's not perfect by any means, but I started feeding her a couple of years ago, cooked food, lightly cooked, and she just loves it. But she loved her raw food before, but I could tell now that she kind of needed that, and I think energetically she needed it. But what was the other part of that question? Sorry. Oh, calcium phosphorus ratio. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I can.
I usually don't focus on the ratio as much as that pretty much every recipe that doesn't have ground up bone in it requires calcium, because muscle meat in particular has a high level of phosphorus, and the body does need to balance out the calcium and phosphorus. But like us, we don't worry about balancing out our meals. It's all variety, but sometimes if we're focusing on a diet, we're not giving that much variety. So you can add, my favorites are eggshell calcium.
Mine too.
And seaweed calcium. The vegans among us, we use seaweed calcium.
And I think, for me, the no-no is bone meal. And the reason I say that is the contamination of commercial cattle in particular in this country, or if you're just using, big ag animals, very high pollutants of heavy metals, arsenic, mercury, even lead. And even if the bone meal comes from out of the country, often New Zealand, they got plenty of problems there too. Maybe it's a little bit cleaner, but I tend to stay away from bone meal. I have for decades. So I think what Jeff is saying, a really good source is organic eggshells, and you just let them dry or toast them if you need to a little bit. I put them in a bowl in my oven. I have an oven, and when I crack eggs and rinse them out, and I put those in there, and when it kind of fills up, then I put everything in the blender, and I've got ground eggshell, and I put about a teaspoon of that per pound of meat. And that's a really safe way if you're not feeding bones. Now, if you're feeding things like turkey necks or chicken necks, which are great for the teeth, they're great because they break down easily raw. Now, I mean raw. And they're great because they're loaded with cartilage, and they're great for all that doggy entertainment. That's a great way to get calcium too. So again, if they're clean sources. So anyway, did we cover that one? I think we did.
And that is kind of the essence of it all, isn't it? Food-wise, it's got to be a clean source. It's got to be a source that is free of glyphosate and GMOs and contamination and majority of foods that are commercially available.
Are you curious about a more holistic approach to your dog's health? In the next video, Dr. D. Blanco will discuss the benefits of homeopathy for dogs and how to transition. Click to watch now.